Great. Okay. So, yeah, I'll have that back.
Yeah.
Think of our
You are listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. We want to help demystify marketing to reduce risk, drive more and better opportunities, and grow your business. Are you ready to master marketing?
All right, I'm Pete Monfre. Let's get into the marketing mindset, shall we? Not just any marketing mindset, the B2B marketing mindset. Today's topic, AGI, is the artificial intelligence you should be worried about. Maybe not the artificial intelligence you're thinking of. And so what is this AGI, artificial general intelligence? So think SkyNet, right? Our friend Tim Hayden from Brain+Trust Partners is going to share his thoughts on the singularity, the real AI that is coming, whether you like it or not. And data is the new oil. And who will survive? I love that data is the new oil. That was my favorite one. But my bet is on the cockroaches, honestly.
Yeah.
We can hear some people in the background. It is okay that we do, but I just wanted to let you know in case they're talking about anything they shouldn't be.
No, I think they're talking about a South by Southwest party. So
there you go.
It's okay. Yeah.
Everybody will show up. But let me introduce Bill Lowell, co-host, Business Development Directives. Welcome back. Did you enjoy your vacation?
Well, for sure. It was 2 weeks of the flu. So yes, I did. Thank you.
Well, there you go. I thought it was something good.
Yeah. We're doing good. Thank you and welcome.
Awesome. And welcome back to the program, Tim, CEO of Brain+Trust, expert in data analytics, AI, machine learning, a lot of other things above my pay grade. But did I get that right?
Well, I don't know. Let's be careful, Pete. There's no experts in the world. They just don't exist. There are folks that are consummate students, right? And they study more than others. And with that, I would say that, I have for some time been fascinated with data, data management, and what does that mean for media? What does that mean for customer experiences, and where we are today, and everything you've already said we're going to talk about.
Well, and keeping up with it is the thing. I think that's the hard part. And, I've made a conscious choice not to keep up with a lot of it. So kudos to you. But, I think people right now think ChatGPT is artificial intelligence that writes crappy blog articles. Like that's what it is to most people.
True.
It's about 1 in 3 businesses are planning on using ChatGPT to write web content. So my position on that is if you choose to do that, you also may suffer the consequences. So it's okay to do it, but beware. But that's not really the type of AI that, that we're talking about, or that's going to set the business world upside down, and maybe even civilization. I mean, who knows? There's this. And actually, you introduced it to me. I wasn't that aware of it, and it's actually been going on for a long time. They've been working on this a long time, and so it says, all right. We just have a little audio note here. So Tim is a little bit loud. If there's a way to come down a tiny hair, or I'm quiet, they say. That's usually not what they're saying. So, but
on my end,
it's going to be good.
Sounds clear.
Okay.
No.
It's a great topic, and I think let's just start off. Let's jump in and real quick before we do that though, I want to tell the folks, especially if you're out there listening, that you can go to b2bmarketingmindset.com. You're going to get a lot more content. There's video. It's not just an audio program. We broadcast this live on, I think, 5 platforms now. But if you're listening on Spotify, for example, you don't see the gorgeous people on the screen. So go in and you can subscribe there, and there's going to be courses there. So if you sign up, you get the early notice for the free courses. So it's pretty awesome. But data is the new oil. We're going to start with the best bullet point. All right. Still getting notes. Hang on. We're turning up our audio a little bit.
Yeah.
So what data is the new oil? I think I know what you mean, but I want to hear what you mean by that, Tim.
Well, I think the thing that most folks don't understand about artificial intelligence is that it's not just what is incredibly fantastic math or software code that makes AI possible. It is underneath that, it's good data, right? And you have to have the right kinds of data. And you said it already, Pete, is there are a lot of folks. There is, let's call it a majority of marketers that are out there right now, and they're subscribing for $20 a month to ChatGPT or to Anthropic's Claude, or maybe they've been using one of the models that Google or Meta has made open source and something they can start to use to generate content. And that's what we see most people talking about on LinkedIn, right? Well, if you think about it, all of those models were built on other people's data. All of those models are learning from public data sources and some other data sources that, through terms and conditions, a lot of us agreed for Google or Meta or some of these other companies to have. So what's going on here is there's a data race that's in play right now. I'll give you a couple of examples. Just 2 weeks ago, Google agreed or Reddit agreed to sell data to Google for $60 million. And Google was very transparent about that all of Reddit's data would be used in Gemini. And Gemini is their, at least for now, it is the model they're putting forward to be their, not just large language model, but their multimodal language model, right? This is the next thing. And if you really just read the tea leaves, and we'll talk about this later, specifically about AGI, that's what Gemini is. But to make that model, think about it as a personal AI assistant, not just helping you generate website content, but it helps you find a table that's available at a restaurant. It helps you move money from one bank account to another. It confirms that you lock the doors on your house, right? That's where this is going. And honestly, most of the models that people are using right now are simply trained on public data, not your data. So that's where we see things like hallucinations, and that's where we see words misspelled, and we see colors misconstrued when we ask it to generate an image for us, right? That's what's happening. So the truth of it is that most of the AI that's out there publicly available, I call it coin-operated AI. That coin-operated AI that people are using right now, it's in an infant stage. You have to think about it in those terms. It is very nascent. It is just now being used. It's just now being tested. It's just now being trained. Yeah. And to train it better, you got to have better data. Hence, data is the new oil.
It's like baby AI right now. It's cute at the moment.
It is.
Forgive me if I seem like I'm terrified of AI, but one thing that does terrify me is using Reddit as a source. If you've seen Reddit, you'll know what I mean. I actually have thought about doing a separate podcast, and you guys can join me. And it's called Reddit Dumbasses, and we'll just look at Reddit dumbasses, and we'll probably have to blur the names. That's one of my concerns. AI is going to think human names are pretty dicey. But Bill, what do you think? Civilizations are built on oil. Now it's really data. But it goes so much farther than that. I mean, what Tim is also talking about is abandoning Google as a way to find information. Yeah. Which Google just makes lists, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Well, and how is that going to impact? I mean, that's going to be really interesting too. Like with somebody, if somebody's searching for somebody's organization, or they're searching for marketing or data companies, I mean, that's going to potentially impact all of that. So this is pretty fascinating to me, because I think that could change the landscape significantly, wouldn't you think, Tim, with how people go to market and do other things?
Well, it certainly will, and to Pete's comment on Reddit and the quality of that data, let's digress for a second. When Elon Musk and Wall Street put the deal together to buy Twitter, they did not buy a social network. They bought the better part of 17 years of human thought. Yeah. And the last 10 to 12 years, every bit of media around the planet swam through Twitter, ultimately, right? If it didn't start there, you remember there was a challenge in the mid 2010s where CNN would take trending topics on Twitter and then put it on a ticker when you were watching CNN. So you would see what was trending on Twitter while you were watching CNN. They got into some trouble because people started to revive old news stories, misinformation, not really disinformation, but
Right.
finding an old story about lab tests gone wrong for a pharmaceutical company or an oil spill in Alaska, and then all of a sudden getting it to trend, and oh my gosh, it's on CNN, right? So there are all kinds of ways that this is going to be consequential whenever we think about the data sources that will be used for AI. And again, what happens and what changes with human behavior? And Bill, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is if well, both of you did, right? Peter, when you said Google gives us lists, when it gives us search results, if you think about that statement, Google search never worked. It never did. It always gave us lists, and it didn't give us answers. And you look at perplexity.ai now, and Perplexity gives you a paragraph, and then it gives you 5 to 7 thumbnail sources from which it put the paragraph together, right? So you can then click through, but you've got your answer right in front of you, right? So the Bill, when you talk about the behavior change that's there, it's no secret that Google, for all good reasons and by design, for existential reasons, has to be out in front to define what the personal AI experience is going to look like, what artificial general intelligence is going to look like. Google has to do it. It's existential for them because for the better part of 20 years, they were the gateway for the globe to find what they were looking for on the internet.
Right.
Now they must play that same role in a world where our voice and natural language, just asking a question, is how we are going to search or discover or find that which we buy, that which we subscribe to, or that which we consume in terms of content.
Yeah, the ramifications for the marketing world, it's so centered around Google Analytics. And even that, we got a situation now where you have Google Analytics 4, which is completely different than 3. Like, it's already a huge problem for the marketing industry and how clients see analytics, and trying to explain to them that no, Google pulled the rug out of most of what you think you know, and now it's all new, and everybody's kind of set back. If you had a huge advantage, you had to retrain, right? And we have stayed up with that.
Totally.
But now you mentioned generative AI, so let me see if I have the right. So generative AI. Tell us the difference between large language model, generative AI, and artificial general intelligence.
Well, let's be clear. ChatGPT. I'm going to come back and talk about GA4 here in just a second, but ChatGPT is a precursor for what OpenAI hopes is artificial general intelligence. It is a large language model. There's a bot, which we call ChatGPT. Another one, which was DALL-E 3, which has been combined with it, right, to become multimodal now. Not just giving you text, but giving you visual, images. And now with Sora, which they just launched, not quite yet for public use, your ability to create videos from text, right? Just to say, hey, let me fly over Austin, let me fly over New York City, and swoop down Madison Avenue, right? And then within seconds, Sora comes back as a part of the OpenAI ecosystem. It comes back and it makes the video for you. Again, Sora has been trained on, in that specific situation, a lot of content, just so everyone can understand it, that has been tagged and given a schema that knows for Sora to find it as New York, as Madison Avenue, as those things, right? And then able to fantastically piece it together in terms of processing what it knows into something from an output standpoint that looks like a video of you flying down Madison Avenue. Well, these are, I want to be careful, they're not one and the same. When OpenAI says they're really close to AGI, they lack a couple of critical ingredients that Apple and Google have. Google and Apple have got the footprint, and Amazon's right behind them, right? But
Right.
Google and Apple have got a footprint. When you think of Apple TV and you think of iPhones and iPads and MacBooks and the other things that they've got in the marketplace, and most recently what they're doing with Vision Pro, to move into spatial computing, or what people call virtual reality, right? They have us surrounded. You think about the iPhone and where it goes with you. It goes everywhere with you. You tether it to your car, and the iPhone pulls data from your car, and it actually sends data from your phone to the car company, right? To the onboard computer. So the core of that, we don't have to, we just give a nod back to data as the new oil, but data is swimming through and making all these experiences possible. So what's happening there is, with AGI, is being able to make sure that you're immersed, and that personalized AI experience, something that knows everything about you, that you've let it know, and everything you need to know about the rest of the world, having that with you at all times, right, is what we're going to see. Things like smartwatches and, of course, smartphones, they will become the interface for these in the future. A real quick note on GA4 is that GA4 is not just for web analytics. It's not just Google Analytics. What GA4 is this opportunity for you to connect everything on your owned media, your website, your blog, probably your mobile app, and being able to integrate those and share the data from those owned assets with GA4. Why? And make sure it's correct. But why do you do that? Is because GA4 will inform the knowledge graph that Gemini uses when people stop Googling and they start asking a question. They start asking a question: who do I know that has the highest rated pepperoni pizza within 5 miles of me, right? Bottom line is, it's not going to be SEO that makes that happen. It's going to be what GA4 and Gemini, from that connection with GA4, has been able to pull from websites. Meanwhile, what Gemini has been able to do with AI agents crawling the web in real time, which isn't a whole lot different than what Google's been able to do in what people called scraping the internet for years and indexing the web for years. Now, with AI agents, they're able to do that much more succinctly and in real time to bring more fresh and relevant and accurate content to you through conventional search for the next few months, but ultimately through this personal AI assistant that you'll have with you. And once that AI assistant, you've given it license to be, I'm anecdotally, I use Google Fiber at my house in Austin, Texas. What does that mean data-wise? Is Google gets to see everything that comes in and out of my house, right? Well, on top of that, I've got these little Google Home devices that look like Wi-Fi, and they're advertised as Wi-Fi antennas, right? At first, routers, if you want to call them that. But those routers are actual smart speakers. And at some point, we'll get instruction from Google that if we're using Gemini, we can turn those speakers on, and all of a sudden Gemini will be there for us as well. So when you just think about that 1-2 step there, for many folks with smart home technology, with in-vehicle technology, and the fact that they do take their phone everywhere with them, and they share accounts between their phone and their computer and their connected televisions these days, it is an opportunity for Google and Apple right behind them to all of a sudden give us this utilitarian personal AI assistant, which, without unpacking it just for AGI's sake, is AGI. It will be AGI and surround us.
Well, go ahead. I was going to say, I kind of understand it as almost a continuum, where you've got AGI way over here, which is the sentient, type of AI, and large language model over here, and maybe generative somewhere in the middle where it's generating imagery. And Bill and I tried this on, I think, the last 2 episodes ago with the Photoshop's generative AI tools, and we realized false advertising doesn't work as promised. We couldn't get it to do a thing that we asked it to. But what were you going to say, Bill?
No, I liked where Tim was going with that. Couple things, but one, I think when you talked about the integration of all of the tools, in a way, it's probably like much more advanced. But like right now in my calendar, if I've got an appointment with somebody and then I get in my car and I start driving, it brings it up on the navigation system. And so
it sure does.
And so it's like, and I remember early on going, how in the heck does it know that? But it just does. And I think that's to your point about all of that integration where they're all working together. I think that was really, really good. But the other thing that scares me, which I know we're going to talk about, is you talked about it from the house situation. I mean, how much is stuff going to be available to everybody? You know, I mean, just by what you're doing in your house or security reasons, everything else. And that, you know, I think I speak for a lot of people. All of us are probably a little worried about where that's going to go.
Well, I walk around in my underwear a lot, so that's what I was thinking. That's where my mind went immediately. Also, Bill and I thinking the same thing. Go ahead.
You're in your underwear right now, Pete.
There you go.
It's a nice tie, but
we were supposed to keep that to ourselves. I can't believe it.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I mean, this is let's talk about B2B business for a second, right? Because we're on that podcast. Let's do that. That integration that we're talking about here for the personal AI assistant, you know, what that future looks like. And we got there early. We got there early in that SEO and traditional search will just dissipate. We'll just see fewer and fewer people will say, I'll just Google that. I think more and more people are just going to say, hey, Google, or hey, Siri, or whatever they need to say. And there she is. She cancel.
Wow.
You know, they're going to be there for us and change our behavior in terms of how we use the browser and in terms of how we use some of the search and discovery technologies that were so comfortable and second nature to us. Right. There's that. But the other side of that is for B2B businesses and for all business for that matter. There is this notion of master data management. Let's go back to data being the oil. Yeah. You have the oil in your business today to power you through what's next. Not future-proof you, but make you future ready for whatever happens next. The data is there. And it is not just your CRM. It is not just ERP systems, large financial NetSuite applications or those systems. It is all of the above. Marketing automation, survey data, research data, inventory data, logistics, e-commerce, whatever it is you're using right now to operate your business. Most of it has gone digital, right? If not directly, indirectly, you're from a data entry standpoint, you're plugging all that into a spreadsheet or a database somewhere. And the big opportunity with master data management platforms and ultimately customer data platforms on the marketing side is the more data you have, the more responsibility you have to integrate it all with those platforms. And what happens there is machine learning and artificial intelligence, but mainly machine learning that's been proven for a decade plus, helps you make sense and structure that data, find the correlations and the causal relationships between data that was stored over here and data that was stored over here. A classic example, a practical example is the customer's name is Bill or Billy or William or initial W. And sometimes he uses his middle initial. And he's had 3 new iPhones over the last 10 years. And because he already admitted to us here on this podcast, he plugs his phone into his car and he uses our app when he's driving. And we know that because of the metadata that comes over sometimes with his orders. All of this data exists. What I just probably rattled off of could be records for this individual that with IP addresses and MAC addresses, he's got 20 different identities across the organization. So pulling all that into one of these systems, the first order of business is to say, Billy, William, Bill, 1234.45 .7x4, that's all the same person. That MasterCard and that American Express, that's just Bill, and building one record for him. Now, the other side of that is there are other people that walk and talk and buy like Bill does. And think marketing, we have things we'll say to them that we won't say to the person that was Peter, Pete. Right. Pete and his cohort, his audience cohort, not personas. Personas is also out the window. This is archetypical. We have
getting to one, like
one-to-one, right? This is
30 years ago, but
right.
That's right. The individualization of our experiences, which AGI will take that to the nth degree. But in the meantime, the way programmatic media is set up and the way that your supply chain and your distribution channels, the way they're set up, the way that there can be data sharing on the same customer, and the way that we can start to understand that we can create efficiencies. We can stop sending 5 catalogs to the same person.
Yeah.
And we can get much smarter about the behavioral attributes that make these people different from each other, that just mean we send email to them on a different day of the week, maybe. Or, something like that. That's where this goes. And it's not something that marketing automation systems alone can do. You'll need to have these big data management systems in place to really make that happen.
So much of that sounds so unattractive to me. So our title, who will win the race? And I don't think it's the people or the consumers here. And I say that as somebody that, like I said, the promise of the one-to-one marketing messaging never seemed to really come about. We still generalize. Personas have given us tools. Ideal client profiles given us tools, but there's still cohorts, like you said. They're generalized things, and you craft your message to resonate in a general way. Well, now this technology, and you mentioned programmatic advertising. For those that aren't familiar with that term, it means that the AI determines what type of media it puts out. Like Google right now will, responsive ads are a kind of a form of this. It might change the shape, the size of the ad, the headline. There's all the different components, or it might decide to run television or radio or some mix of these things. It's different. Everything is really changing on that front. So, but I think there's going to be a backlash, if not starting already, and that's where I think this next bullet point about data privacy and cybersecurity is going to be crucial, because the ideal, there's people out there that say this should be regulated like nukes, like we should never actually get to where we're talking about, because we're talking about a relatively sanitized version of what AGI is or could be, but right. The answer is it only knows the data you want it to know. Am I getting that right?
Well, it should, right? I mean, I think what you're seeing right now, with a month and a half ago with Google announcing that Gemini, and I won't get the number right, the version number that it was on, but Gemini was being pushed to Google Assistant. I never used Google Assistant, and I downloaded it, and the first question it asked me was, could I let it have access to all of my contacts? Could I have, and then would I writ large let it have access to everything on my phone? And because I'm a Google Fiber user, and because I'm supposed to know the answer to what these things do, I said yes. And I didn't get utility out of it in the first week that I tried to play with it, right? I asked it some questions that I thought it would be able to know. And there's definitely, on my iPhone, using a Google product, there are other settings that I've got to go do in terms of my general settings on the phone, right? In terms of per app, what am I allowing to talk to Google Assistant? So there is some this exactly, and that's where the tenets of data privacy really are. We have 13 U.S. states that by this June or July will have a data privacy law in force, and that data privacy law for most of these states looks very similar to GDPR and the California Consumer Privacy Act, which has been around for a couple of years now, right? Um, and it is that the consumer has the right to ask to see their data, to correct their data, to tell you to stop using it, to tell you that you can't sell it, and for the freedom to be forgotten, right? What the Scandinavians call digital suicide, and the ability to say to a company, listen, I want you to delete everything you know about me. Some of these laws even go a step further and they talk about portability. So what most people have thought about with portability is I'm moving from 123 Mulberry Street to 567 Hacksaw Creek, and I want to take my phone number with me, or I'm moving from Verizon to AT&T and I want to take my phone number with me. Well, think about this. The way some of these laws are written is I stopped driving a Ford and I want to drive a Chevy. I want to take all my data that Ford has and give it to Chevy. Or I'm done with Big Macs and now I want to go to Wendy's and I want to take all my data from McDonald's and take it to Wendy's. Now, this sounds challenging, and it is challenging for companies that have their data disparately managed, which is why most companies are given a 30-day grace period to when you have that request to see or that request to correct your data. They can say, hey, put in your request here, and in 30 days someone will contact you, right? Is because usually they got to go hunt it down. That tells you as well that a lot of everything else I just said is just not possible. It's not possible. But in the near future, it will be the way we operate. It'll just be that way. So when you think about whether it's B2B or it's straight to consumer, all brands have got a both fiduciary and a ethical responsibility and an operational responsibility to better manage their data just for contemporary operations. But what does that do from future readiness is it gets them ready for what's next, both from a legislative and maybe FTC rulemaking standpoint, gets them ready to comply on an ongoing basis, and or what do language models, what does artificial intelligence love? Clean, structured data. So if you, the business, wants to start to employ automation, to employ artificial intelligence to run more accurately, faster, better, and cheaper, AI can empower you to do that as long as your data in your house is in order. So it's not a silver bullet. It's I see Bill shaking his head, but it's not a silver bullet that it does everything and anything, but it certainly sets you up in a readiness position.
I was also nodding and kind of chuckling to myself because there's a lot of times when we've done research for companies and they will tell me, oh yeah, we've got everything set for our in-house with customer data, you name it. And then, like now after doing this for 30 some years, I know they don't, but it's like, it's kind of amazing. They'll say that and then it's 6 months later until they're even ready to do, a simple brand study or a customer satisfaction study because they don't have it in order, just like you were talking about. It's
that's right.
Hilarious,
Well, and the other side of that too, though, real quick, is just the old, I need to put you on hold and transfer you to someone in another department.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's, pardon my French, but that's BS. Is you should be, as a customer service agent, as a customer experience professional, you should be able to find exactly what you need to quickly recover the customer or solve the customer's challenge, issue, complaint. You should be able to talk to them exactly about what they want to talk about without having to transfer to them to somebody else who just happens to be using a different system and access to different data.
Well, and I think what Bill's saying is if you ask a company or client, if we're in the marketing business, the shape of their data, they're going to be like, it's great, fantastic.
They always do.
Right? And so at the same time, nobody should feel bad if their data is a mess because that is really kind of the status quo. And what Tim, I think, is saying is now is the time to start getting that data in order and starting to hook things together and get rid of the walls between different functions of your company and achieve that vision that was sold to us so many decades ago. We're getting very close to it. Now, there are experts that say that the Terminator style AGI isn't, still about 100 years off, but we'll just have to see. But I do think legislation, it's just going to be a pretty wild ride, I believe. But brands that may persevere or perish in the AI age, I'd say, this is one of my concerns about this is so much of this is to the advantage of the large companies.
But that's what's happened already for the last 2 decades, right? The same 5, 6 companies that controlled our attention and our time, really. And this is the human side of it to really think about too, is our waking hours have been focused at glass and spent with, on average, just 5 or 6 companies, right? All that time. And that's where think about our email, think about the videos we watch. Think about Google for a second, right? They've got Gmail, they've got Google Workspace, they've got YouTube, they own Fitbit, Google Maps, Waze. All Volvos, starting in 2023, had Google as the operating system. So you think about what you just said, Pete, is I'm absolutely with you. And this is what I tell companies all the time is you want to think like Amazon, you want to operate like Amazon, right? Which is delivered to their door exactly what they're looking for and delivered to their door the next day, right? And super easy to find, right? And one-click purchase, all of that, right? You want to do all that, you can do that. Any company can do this right now, but it all starts with their data. It all starts with the data.
Well, I do think it leans towards the companies with budgets that some of these tools are still very, very expensive. The ones that you would actually use to integrate and run your business, not ChatGPT for $20 a month. And I wonder about that. If it's not just one more step down the extinction of small business, but I don't think it's something that you can fight necessarily. It's cat's out of the bag. But I really think the brands that embrace it and understand how to use it as a tool, but keep the human aspect of how they interact with customers. If you can pull both sides of that equation off, those are the ones I think that are going to do really well. I just talked to somebody yesterday who tried to work with somebody who had just automated everything. It was a terrible experience for him. They're like, we really just wanted to talk to a person, But so much of this, and I know Tim has limited time, so let's whip off to our final thoughts real quick. And what a fascinating topic. Hang on, we're going to run the final thoughts graphic.
Final thoughts.
All right, then. We had to get that over with. I love that little graphic because the voiceover sounds like a mouse somehow. I don't know how that works exactly. Tim, give us your final thoughts first.
Well, I mean, let's talk about data privacy for a second. There are some fantastic tools that do not require you to budget several quarters out to use. Osano, OSANO.com. Osano is a fantastic consent management form, which helps you check a huge box with all the data privacy laws and some of the FTC rules that are in force for all businesses. You can't tell me that you're not, but you're susceptible to just about every rule the FTC has put out in terms of data governance. Asana is fantastic. OneTrust is another, these are systems that will connect with your CRM. They'll connect with your marketing automation system. They'll connect with any of the pixels and the web analytics tools that you're using for your website, and they'll put you in a place where you are giving some control to the people that come to your website, and you're able to actually fly a flag that says that you're being responsible, that you're actually doing, you have good faith in terms of what you're doing, and these are sub $500 a year or a month to use these systems. Another one is SecondSight, SecondSight.ai. If you're not happy with your cyber insurance coverage right now, SecondSight AI actually can point you in the direction of some brokers, or you can send that website to your broker, and it becomes a tool for $500 per terabyte per year that actually puts AI agents in your systems and helps you identify vulnerabilities, because a lot of cybersecurity issues, especially, all respect to B2B folks, especially in B2B, people are notorious for using the same password in 20 different places, or worse, they don't download the latest operating system with bug fixes and security patches the way they're supposed to. Second Sight has the ability to not only help you monitor those systems, but help you get very fair and accurate cyber insurance. These are, as I've stated before, they're below $1,000 a year investments that are out there for companies to use, and there are more on the way. This is the good news about artificial intelligence: is software development is not what it used to be. We're going to see an acceleration of products, and we're going to see a universal accessibility to products that I think up and down the value chain and up and down budget capacity, we're going to see solutions that come to bear that help people understand their data and understand their customers and understand their business better than they do today.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, any final thoughts?
I've learned so much in this podcast, so thank you, Tim, for that. And I guess my point is, I think this whole industry is going to continue. Like you mentioned, it's in its infancy. It's going to continue to evolve. I mean, look at just what we've learned and our guests have learned today in this 40-minute segment, and then multiply that times a month from now, a year from now. I mean, it's just going to be exponential. So, I just think we're all going to eventually learn it. And I think someday you're going to see shortly, you'll just see all kinds of jobs or positions around AI, and that's it, so yeah. I'm kind of excited about it, actually.
It's adapt or die.
Yeah.
It's, for one, welcome our AI overlords. But as long as we can keep control of them and make sure that, Google's slogan is it do no evil?
No, you're thinking about the medical community.
Well, I don't know if I have the words exactly right, but, and they are fairly evil at this point. But, I have this illegal llama farm in my backyard, and I don't want anyone to know about that. But
too late. Google's already
too late.
Google's on it.
Too late.
They even know what type of llamas. But it's coming. And at the end of the day, for me, the biggest thing is now is time to start looking at data. And, reach out to Tim, and Brain+Trust is a great resource for that. And again, I love to surround myself with people smarter than me, so I think our mission's been accomplished this week.
Oh, man. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Thank you, Tim. Fantastic. And, you'll find some more about this. We have a transcript of the program, so we'll pull some of that out and put it on B2BMarketingMindset.com. So just great stuff. As always, thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Peter. Yeah,
you,
thanks,
Tim.
Pete. Always good to see you guys.
And we'll see everybody next week, 11 o'clock Central.
And Tim, you are an expert, because if I'm in Wisconsin and you're in Austin, Texas, what do they say? As long as you're 100 miles away from somebody, you're an expert. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go. No, I'll look you up next time I'm over in
Monfre and Bill Lowell. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.